Stopping by. My name is Dr. Ugorji. I'm the Commissioner for Homeland Security and Vigilante Affairs in Imo State. With respect to your question, which has to do with security and peaceful elections in 2023, I would start by saying that the number one agency, the number one security agency in the nation that is responsible for internal security, even as it relates to election matters and elections, including the one coming next year, is the Nigerian Police Force. That's the number one security agency in the country with respect to internal security. And so everything that Imo State has done and is going to do with respect to plans for 2023 general elections is going to be anchored on the Nigerian Police Force. As you know, sometime earlier this year, His Excellency Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State and the government of Imo State had purchased about 10 armored personnel carrier vehicles. They are known as APC vehicles. Had purchased about 10 of them and presented them to the police. The IG, Inspector General of Police, Alkali Baba Usman, was here in Imo, in Owerri, to help inaugurate and accept the presentation of those vehicles. So those are all part of the plans that His Excellency has embarked on to strengthen the police and to support them in their efforts. And as you may know, just this month, the entire brass, and I mean all the officers, commissioners of police, AIGs, DIGs, and the Inspector General of Police himself, Alkali Baba Usman, converged in Owerri. They were here on a special retreat and conference, and the major topic of their gathering was with respect to planning for security, developing a strategy for security towards the upcoming elections in 2023. So they were here in Owerri with us for about 4 days, and in fact, as Commissioner for Homeland Security, I was asked by the police to present a paper on the role of vigilante groups in peaceful elections next year. But I bring that up to say that His Excellency Governor Hope Uzodinma and the government of Imo State hosted the entire brass of the police here in Imo, and the main theme of the gathering was to discuss and develop strategies for conducting peaceful elections next year, violence-free elections next year. So we have a governor in Imo State who is completely and totally invested in peaceful elections, not just in Imo State, but across the country. And he demonstrated that and continues to demonstrate that by the fact that he hosted the entire brass of the police here in Imo State. Now, in addition to our work with the police, this ministry has been directed by Governor Hope Uzodinma to do a sensitization tour of all the local government areas in Imo State. There are 27 of them altogether. And so we have embarked on that. And part, of course, of the message we bring at these sensitization tour events is peace, peaceful coexistence. And of course, as the elections loom for next year, then peaceful elections is part of the message we bring to these sensitization tours. In addition to that, His Excellency has been holding town hall meetings and meeting with strategic leaders around the state, and been going to worshiping centers and areas to talk about and bring the message of peace in Imo State. So he's visited several churches lately, and I go with him to these events. And his central message is on peace in Imo and in praying and planning for peaceful elections next year. We remain hopeful. We are in a state that is governed by a man named Hope. We have to be hopeful that those who sign peace accords will live up to the terms of the peace accords. But in Imo State, we are not leaving the security and safety of our people now or in the future, including the elections. We're not leaving them to hopes on just the peace accords. We're doing what we can in outreach programs. For instance, this ministry has a program called the Youth Advocates. We also have a program known as Hope's Angels. The Youth Advocates are young men that we recruit, train them to be essentially peace ambassadors, to be able to go to their peers, to their fellow young people, and help them orient themselves to ways that don't bring them in conflict with security agencies. The same thing with Hope Angels. We direct that program to women. It's an outreach through our August meeting network of our women to also get them to participate in orienting our youths, our young ones, because our women have great influence on us, the men, and on their children as well. So we want to collaborate with our women to help us put out the message for peace in Imo and for our young people to engage themselves in productive things and stay away from things that bring them in conflict with security agencies next year. Occasions, there are two major sources of conflict between some members of the citizenry and security agents. At least in our part of the world, there are two major sources. Well, three major sources. The first one is sponsored violent activities in the state. We believe that, and the governor has spoken severally to this, that most of the violence we experience in Imo State are actually orchestrated and sponsored by political gladiators, either in the state or from outside the state. So that's one source of the violence. So we can bring down significantly violent occurrences in the state if those political gladiators stop the sponsoring of violent activities, right? There's a second aspect or source of these violent activities, and that's from criminal gangs, criminal syndicates who simply make a living from violent actions such as kidnapping and burning down of security outfits and things like that. Sometimes they burn down security outfits because they don't want security in the area, because security in the area impedes their work as criminal syndicates. So that's the second part or source of some of the violence we have in the state. And then there is, of course, the separatist movement in the state. Some elements of that movement have moved into violence as a strategy in pursuit of their goal. And that has also brought them in conflict with security agencies. So you speak about the youth advocates. We recruit youth advocates, one, to help reorient their mates, their peers, the young people, to help reorient them to desist from activities that bring them in conflict with security agencies. In other words, for instance, take for instance the separatist movement. It is based on feelings of alienation, feelings of inequity and injustice as they perceive it. While some of those sentiments may be true, we say that violence is not an option in pursuit of those sentiments. Violence and separatism, as far as state policy is concerned, is not an option. They are not options for our young people to use to pursue those goals. We believe that those issues of injustice and inequity, those issues can still be pursued within the legal framework and within the political realm to achieve the goals that some of our young people have with respect to justice and equity. So violence and confrontation with security agencies are not options in the state.
And now the youth now, from all intents and purposes, would now infiltrate them as it were?
Well, the fact of the matter is that every separatist movement is already infiltrated anyway. It is the work of security, responsible security agencies, to know what's going on and not to be taken by surprise, right? So I don't think I'm saying anything new to say that the youth advocates are not there to infiltrate separatist movement. They're there to talk to their peers. They're there to liaise with their peers and help them understand that there are better ways, there are more productive ways to pursue even issues of justice and equity, as has been raised by some of our young people. So that's what the youth advocates are there to do.